in quite some time around this Bradley Barcola deal. Bradley Barcola has apparently agreed personal terms with Liverpool, though, if that was the case, he probably would have done this days ago. And we're starting to question what a real ITK is, because this story is in L'Equipe. And, some people question L'Equipe. It's a fairly reputable national source in France. It is a big newspaper over there. It's one that does have good insight on PSG. It's one that's got good insight on the league. And it's probably the kind of place that would save or hold off on making big claims like this unless it was some meaningful change. And the news and the details of this, there are some people in the ITK space who've been saying this for a couple of days. They've been saying that Iraola spoke with Bradley Barcola and sold him yet again on the project at Liverpool, that Barcola himself now has spoken to a number of people at Liverpool, that he's spoken to a couple of the French counterparts, and obviously that he's also spoken with, just multiple players about their Liverpool experience. Then he's spoken to Liverpool, or that those negotiations have been ongoing, and that then he's then been subject to a bid, because he's basically gone to Liverpool and gone, right, I'm ready. I understand the implications of everything that's going on here. I'm ready to leave the club, make a bid, or, do something meaningful to try and get me out. There is still a long way to go in this deal, but agreeing personal terms, having a player that's committed to your club is important, especially in a summer like this, when making big statements, when completing a project, when completing a vision is key to what we are doing here. Allowing Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards and anyone else who's laid out the next 3 to 5 years at the club, whether someone else comes in and adapts those or whatever, is really important. And Barcola is a quality player. He will fit straight into this front line at Liverpool. There are plenty of reasons to believe that he would be a great target for Iraola and the club, mainly because we need someone, first of all, to fill one of those front three spaces. We do need adaptable players, people who can maybe push Wirtz inside when he needs to be, but also allow Wirtz the space and for them to push inside as well. We need a rotatable, adaptable front line that will not only be a 3 or a 3 and then a 1, but also people who can rotate around that 3 and the 1, and also people who can be parts of rotational units. And Barcola is definitely one of those. He's been used to rotating at PSG. He's also been used to rotating it on the national level as well. And he's also shown that he can play alongside other players and be complementary to those high-end players, Kylian Mbappe, etc., not only at Paris, but also on the international stage as well. So he's a well sought after player. He's someone that Arsenal were looking at. He's someone that a lot of high-end clubs have looked at, but clearly he is surplus to requirements at PSG. And that could be because, well, there might be a personal element there. There might also just be a career element there. There might be a want element there of like him wanting more, them not wanting to pay that, them wanting to keep this conveyor belt of money going out, players coming in, but also just a change in profile at the club. What is it that they see as the key profile at PSG? And Liverpool clearly see a profile they love in the player. They wanted him last summer. They couldn't get him. Were wondering whether they were going to have to hold out to next summer, which shows a long-term interest in the player anyway. And now that they've had those conversations, now that we know that there has been kind of a concrete contact between the individual and the club, and then obviously now Liverpool move on and probably progress things between them and PSG, because they wouldn't have done this in the first place if it wasn't for this. I think this is big news in the Liverpool space, and we will see more and more big names in the coming hours kind of confirming it and maybe putting some of this to bed. I think after these kind of stages, you tend to see things move fairly quickly at Liverpool, and I'll be interested to see how Liverpool progress it in the coming days. Obviously, there's a big fee involved. A lot of people in my comments and other people's comments the other day saying, I don't think he's worth that fee. I also don't think Liverpool think they're going to pay the very top end of what PSG are asking. I think there's some sort of middle ground. And it's very clear, by the way, also, to everyone involved, well, if you really valued him that highly, you would have kept him. And you would have seen him as a profile that's worth keeping. Or you would have made him happy, or you would have given him what he wanted, whatever it is, all those things around it. You can't say that you want to keep a player and then say within the same breath, oh, but, we don't want to give him what he wants. And, I'm all for kind of moneyballing it and kind of saying, there's value here, there's value there. If we see value in a £100 million player, or a £140 million player, or a €117 million player, and we think that there is a higher ceiling to that, well, that probably, A, shows where the market's at. I think the market has definitely taken a jump in terms of the amount that you have to pay for high-end players, but also the value that we see in those guys, securing these guys, giving us a sure front line and a set of units for the next couple of years. Munoz obviously came in earlier this summer. If we then got someone like Barcola, if we then added that to the Hijack and Ekitike signings, we're looking a lot more like that PSG style profile, I think, at that point. And that is fascinating, because I don't think we're looking to emulate PSG immediately. Although, obviously they've gone for Luis Enrique, we've gone for Areola, they've got a level of kind of adaptable intensity. We want a level of adaptable.
On the table is boycotting the World Cup. That is the strength of feeling of concern, particularly about the lack of transparency from FIFA about this whole new strategy that would transform football as we know it. A bit like those Super League plans that UEFA crushed a few years ago. Now, FIFA plans this new venture to be called FIFA Forward Enterprise, and they say it could be worth $20 billion, around £15 billion, and that they're looking to raise $4.2 billion from private investors. The pitch from them is that football associations around the world would benefit financially from this. Currently, they're in line to have access to $8 million up until 2030. If these plans go through, FIFA says they could have access to $20 million up to 2030. Money they can spend on infrastructure, grassroots football and national teams, very much trying to win over support by how they could benefit financially. But UEFA are saying that FIFA haven't been transparent over the finances in terms of who does exactly benefit. FIFA have said that the bank JP Morgan is involved. They've also said that leading on the investment will be one Josh Kushner. He is the brother of Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. And this will raise many new questions about the links between Gianni Infantino and Donald Trump and his family.
Well, it's a staggering story, isn't it? We want you all to have your say. What do you think about this? Scan the QR code on screen. Are FIFA right to sell a minority stake in the World Cup? You can send us a voice note. It can be a message on WhatsApp. That's the number 07514917075, and we'll go through some of the best of them throughout this morning.
Barcola says yes to Liverpool. This isn't just a "someone agreed" moment. It's the start of a bigger change in how Liverpool are planning to attack games. Liverpool have always carried a certain level of intensity, high energy, fast decisions, and the belief that momentum is something you can generate rather than wait for. When a club targets an attacker like Barcola, they're basically picking an identity tool. Because the kind of player Liverpool want isn't only about making chances, it's about creating the feeling inside the match where the opposition can't settle. Barcola's yes lands because it fits the style many Liverpool supporters recognize instantly. He's the type who can stretch defenses without asking permission, who can turn a routine phase into something that forces defenders to backpedal, and who can threaten even when the passing is not perfect. That matters because modern games are rarely about flawless football for 90 minutes. They're about breaking the opponent's structure at the right times. A forward who attacks space with confidence gives you that break. Now let's get into why this move carries weight for Liverpool specifically. When a club goes after a winger forward, they're usually making one of two choices. Either they want goals and directness, or they want to change how the team's attacks are built. Barcola does both, but he particularly helps with the first touch phase, when the ball goes from midfield into the dangerous zones and everything becomes quicker. If you improve that link, you improve how often your team gets into situations that lead to shots. For Liverpool, this is important. Because good attacking teams don't just need big individual moments, they need repeatable attacks. That means you need a player who can create multiple kinds of threats. Attacking the channel behind the fullback, receiving to face up and carry into pressure, and arriving late to finish when the defense gets stretched. If Barcola becomes part of that mix, Liverpool don't just get more width. They get more angles, and more angles often equals more chances, because defenders can't predict which exact version of your attack is coming. There's also the psychological side of a signing like this. When a club adds a forward who looks confident to go forward every time he receives the ball, it changes how teammates play around him. Midfielders pass with less hesitation because they trust the next action. Fullbacks commit higher because there's a sense the winger can exploit the space behind or inside. Even strikers begin to behave differently, because the threat on the wide side stops defenders from collapsing centrally as quickly. And since Liverpool are a club that thrives on speed in both phases of the game, Barcola also helps in the out-of-possession moments. The modern attacker isn't just a finishing option, he's a pressing trigger. If he presses with the right timing, forcing errors, cutting off the easy escape pass, and turning the opposition's first clear out into a turnover, that's an immediate value upgrade. It's not always about winning the ball in the highlight clips. Sometimes it's about making the opponent uncomfortable enough that they don't play the pass they wanted. Let's talk about what Liverpool supporters would expect to see early. They'd want him to get involved quickly, and they'd want his role to be clear. The best integration for a new attacker usually looks like this: defined starting responsibilities, freedom in the attacking zone, and trust to attack when the ball arrives. If he's asked to stay too passive in build-up, you don't maximize his biggest strengths. But if he's given the right jobs, arrive in the right spaces, attack the first chance to turn, and stay connected to the second phase runners, then his impact can show up fast.